Hello, everyone! Yes, we have another Bumbles McFumbles video. Of dubious nature. Alter Beast! I know nothing about this game. I think I've heard of it once. You might be thinking of Beastly Rage or whatever the hell it's called.
Wise from your grave.
No. We are not doing dots.
Wise from your grave.
We're not talking about a violin.
I don't know what this has to do with violins.
Leviathan.
That's a fucking sound clip from Altered Beast, dude.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, you guys.
Regardless, you'll find out.
I guess we will. So, if you guys want us to keep watching all this, consider watching ours again. Consider continuing to watch. Consider continuing getting friends to watch. Consider subscribing to tell me that, hey, I'm doing a somewhat decent job. Or follow me on Twitch, because that's the real thing that influences me. Because if I get to 1K somehow before the end of January, I don't know, I'll watch a lot of the Bumbles McFumbles videos you guys want us to. I will. I'll do it. Don't test me. Anyway, let's go into this.
The early 2000s was just about the worst time to be a classic arcade game.
Oh yeah, and go
the
watch
sixth generation
Bumble
of consoles
McFumbles.
is probably when more developers than ever were dropping out of the game-making scene, whether
Yeah.
by choice or by Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Game-making had gotten really expensive with the advent of consoles like the PlayStation 2 and Xbox, so developers had to get
Well, that's because they had to actually think about what they were doing. They couldn't just especially you remember in the early 80s there was the game market crash. That was because people were putting out basically shovelware.
Yeah, and then the mid-2000s they started doing it again.
Yeah.
Look at the Wii's library.
It's like people never learn, and they're trying to do this right now. Why do you think AAA's basically dying right now? Because you're trying to nickel and dime us in the worst possible time. It's It's a vicious cycle that no one seems to know. What'd you say?
Well, that's the thing. This goes until the economy crashes, and then when that's recovered, capitalism is then a couple years after that eventually recovers. First, capitalism is king again. All that matters is making a quick buck.
It's more like
and we get the whole cycle.
It's more of the video game the heads on the video games just don't care. They think they can nickel and dime us until they realize they can't anymore and they start freaking out. Ubisoft tried to sell us skins in a single-player game. I will never forgive that. Ever.
More shrewd about what games were made. With that, companies started to dig more into their backlogs like never before, and the modern idea of a remake or reimagining was born. There were some franchises that made the leap gracefully. Ninja Gaiden did a great job.
It really did. God damn it, that lady.
The rest are staying after class. Companies, especially Japanese companies, got their best fumbling gloves on and mishandled their franchises.
Golden Axe. This Golden Axe looks interesting, though it's not Golden Axe.
Dose of edge to fit the times, which at the time was considered a desperate attempt to chase a trend.
For PS3.
But nowadays is seen as an embarrassingly desperate attempt to chase a trend.
Yeah.
Space Invaders, Bomberman, Capcom from...
Oh, I remember the Bomberman one.
2003 to
Everyone remembers Bomberman X-Zero.
Failing to stand the test of time.
Because it has a cool suit, but that's not Bomberman. It looks so edgy. Dear God.
It's edgy in the gameplay, just 100 levels of the same shit with nothing to break it up and no save system.
It looks hilarious because it's so goofy. Like, don't get me wrong, the design kind of looked cool. I just looked at the box, I'm like, this looks cool, but the gameplay looks dull.
However, there's one game, one desperate attempt to take a beloved, well-liked, remembered arcade game and
I don't
so
even
much
remember
2000s gunk that if it didn't do the wonderful trend of naming itself the exact same thing as the original, which makes looking up the game a hassle, you wouldn't.
Yeah, that's the trend nowadays too.
This is Project Altered Beast, a 2005 remake.
Oh dear God.
Altered Beast, developed in-house by Sega, released exclusively in Japan and
I don't think that's how you transform into a werewolf.
Game I've ever played.
Really? Wait, what kind of Yu-Gi-Oh cards are those?
Crusadias, Trawlers.
Oh yeah, the Crusadia collar. It was the Crusadia crawlers, yeah. Those were the monsters
No,
that
it
kept
was just the crawler. Crustadius or something else.
Yeah, I know.
Because that one was both.
Sega was in a very interesting situation by the late 80s.
Sega.
By this point, the NES
Shadow
held a
on
market dominance over video games, with
Sega
the Master System
has
still
always
hanging
been
in
kinda
there, but
losing.
very much a distant second place. However, even if things weren't
Mm-hmm.
competitive on the console front, Sega had a market that Nintendo had mostly avoided. Arcades. Sega's got
Really?
a large chunk of its history tied up in arcades,
Yeah.
with multiple
That
franchises
makes sense, though,
we like
being
to
how long they've
try
gone
and
around.
convince ourselves are
Been
still
around.
active, like Shinobi, Crazy Taxi, and Virtua Fighter getting their starts in arcade.
It's kind of
cabinets
crazy Virtual
on
Fighter's
home
coming
consoles.
back.
In its heyday, though, Sega
Yeah,
had
it's been
one
dead for
game
like a
they could rely
decade.
upon to call their killer
Sega's
app.
just bringing
Altered
everything
Beast.
back, huh?
Its massive detailed sprites, impressive animations, and fun factor made it a hit with arcade audiences. But
Really?
what really solidified the game's reputation was its home console release. Altered Beast proved to be so popular outside of Japan that it was selected to be the pack-in title that would come with most Genesis and Mega
Really?
games. In the game, you play as a
Huh.
nameless Centurion, whizzing from your grave and tasked with getting
Whizzing
Sega's
from your
strong enough to go
grave.
beat Neff, an evil sorcerer
Yeah.
who kidnapped Athena. It's a super basic side-scroller where you punch zombies and collect power-ups that ooh la la.
Oh
When
my
you get
God.
so big that your deltoids more closely resemble a
Hot.
basketball than human flesh, you transform into a
Basketball.
brand new beast form depending on the level.
Really? You
Werewolves
just
with
grow and
running
change more and
attacks,
more.
Dragons that spit electricity, bears that spit dirt, and werewolves again. Naming
Werewolves
five
again.
animals is hard. Altered Beast is one of the best examples of an arcade game you'll ever find. It's stupid simple, easy to pick up, hard to master because of how stupid tough they made it, and really short if you manage
Yeah,
to
that's
keep
an
choking
arcade
the
game
machine
for you.
with loose change.
Stupid tough.
It was in the transition to being a home console game that people started to get a little sick of it. Altered Beast worked best in a setting where there was a chance that if you hogged the machine, you'd get a sustained and brutal beating for it. In the comfort
Yeah.
you can play all the Altered Beast you want, and it turns out that all the Altered Beast somebody wants, it's not that much. Reviews from the time were far from kind to the game, with some reviews saying it was a pixel-perfect recreation of the arcade game.
And that's
while
the
others
problem.
said, wow, Altered Beast isn't that fun. Despite its reputation as a classic,
Also,
now
it wasn't.
Altered Beast at the time was
Well,
considered an
yeah, it's a
incredibly
very
perfect
simple-
game.
it's a very
While it
simple
did
arcade
emulate
game.
The arcade game flawlessly.
No, I mean, they changed several of the level
Buying a
designs.
whole console
Oh.
for a game that cost
Huh.
$1 or $2 in arcades. Was Altered
Yeah.
Beast worth the $200 price tag that Genesis has carried at the time when they first came out?
My Genesis
To a
came
lot
with
of
Sonic
people,
2.
Not at all, and for many, it may have soured the public perception of Sega and their new console.
Possibly,
When you compare
yeah.
Altered Beast, a visually impressive arcade port with not a lot to offer, to what was its competition at the time, the NES, things look bad. Sure,
Yeah.
the games didn't look as nice, but there was so much more to enjoy with a game like Super Mario Bros., Legend of Zelda, Metroid, Kirby, Mega
Yeah.
Man. I'm just gonna try and
Yeah.
sneak this one in here and see if anybody objects. Shatterhand.
Who?
Altered Beast was looking paltry. Now,
Oh.
obviously,
I
Sega
don't know
bounced
either.
back with dozens of classic games,
Yeah,
but
Sonic
until
the
1991
Hedgehog.
with Sonic, it was Altered Beast time. And then after 1991, it was never Altered Beast time again. While the Genesis port holds a
Yeah.
special place in a lot of people's
Yeah.
hearts, this is not a series Sega has any interest in revisiting.
I mean, I feel
Sure,
like they
they'll
could
still
do
sell
it
some
now
merch of
better
it,
more
make a
than ever.
Funko Pop, but it's largely relegated to the same
I
level
mean,
as
men
Bonanza
transi-
Bros and Alex
I feel
Kidd.
like you could redo this kind of thing if you like give them partial transformations. Like the one they did with that, what was that anime, Bungo Stray Dogs, and give them more unleashed
Didn't
form.
watch.
What?
I did not watch that.
It's pretty good. I suggest it. People gain powers based off of books.
Magic Treehouse?
No, like someone will have a ability based off the book, The Great Gatsby.
Magic Treehouse.
No. I'm surprised you even know what those are. Anyway.
Dude, those are flying off the shelves at my school back in the day.
Yeah.
Everyone fucking knew Magic Treehouse.
Anyway, I feel like you could do this nowadays if you just work a little bit harder and make an interesting, like, beat 'em up platformer with training into werewolves and partially transformations and having cooler abilities. I feel like you could make it work, but you have to put in the effort, and I feel like they didn't.
But
Oh,
even
you'll
those
see.
guys managed to get into Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Even
How?
now, if people talk about
Oh,
Altered
Rhino
Beast, the
Man.
conversation usually
Bebop?
goes, hey, remember Altered Beast?
Bebop.
Yeah, I played it a little while
Or wait,
ago.
was
It
that Rocksteady?
stinks. It
Maybe,
holds
I
a
don't know.
place
Actually.
in history where it's an undisputed classic that no one
Chat, was that
really
Rocksteady?
likes. To Sega of
Oh my
2005, though, they completely zoned out after the
Shenmue.
undisputed classic part. Sega was still not out of the financial ruin that the past 2 failed consoles put them in, and in an attempt to swap out their death certificate for a
Yeah.
haha we were just joking certificate, Sega tried to revamp their franchises to appeal to a more mature audience. People who
Oh,
grew up with
dear.
the Genesis, but who had grown out of Sega games. The first try at this was Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
Don't listen to the critics, man. They may call you garbage, but I'd upgrade you to at least trash. After that was
You
Project
know how many
Altered
people I know
Beast.
who absolutely
this is
love
what-
that game?
Quite a few. I just like the intro song. Them down and down pieces. Wonderful. Like you can say whatever you want about the weird gameplay. Yeah. Everyone likes that song.
It's just so unabashedly edgy. You kind of just have to love it.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. But giving Shadow a gun, of all things, was goofy as hell. Why does the Ultimate Life Form need a gun? But yeah. I'm not sure what
Because he likes the sound the bullets make.
He's also pumping
Why does the
an
Ultimate
assault
Light Form need a
rifle.
motorcycle?
He's also pumping...
You know there is a pump action assault rifle, right?
But that's not a pump action assault rifle that he's holding.
No, because the one that's actually pump action didn't exist until 10 years afterwards.
Oh my god.
What the cover looks like, get it out of your system.
Oh my god, it does! I didn't even realize it looked like the Morbius and the one from Resident Evil Village.
It's the game that turned Sega's fortunes around. Well done, it looks like the Sega Hedgehogs are down 2 strikes in the bottom of the 9th, but they have star hitter Toshihiro Nagoshi coming up to bat. Holy fuck, he actually hit it! He hit it hard!
Oh yeah,
Beast on
Yuck.
PS2 or Project Altered
Wait,
Beast, as it
I
was called in Japan, was
I
the big
completely forgot Yakuza was a Sega game.
That's because it's so far detached from everything we consider Sega.
Yeah. I know a bunch of people who love Yakuza. I'm not really one of them. I think the games are okay.
Fucking weird.
Yeah. It attracts all kinds of people. Especially in the VTuber community. Anyway, what else was I going to
That's
say?
because we're all fucking weird.
That's one way to put it. Also, they published Dawn of War, which I'll be forcing Met to play at some point.
At some point.
push to make Altered Beast a thing again, regardless of the demand for that to not happen. Carrying on the proud tradition of the
Like,
last
this looks
Altered
kinda
Beast
cool.
game, this one received almost straight down the middle review scores, 50s and the low 40s for this
Does it?
game
Oh
set.
god.
The most middle-of-the-shelf game made in an era where you could still afford to be middle of the shelf.
Because it looks
They
like it's
tried
trying to
recouping
be
their losses by giving the game a European release, but that ended up reviewing
Ninja
and
Gaiden,
selling
but-
just as bad, and the team cut their losses.
Oh,
canceling the
damn.
planned US
Ninja
release
Gaiden,
and saving
yeah.
children the nation over
Oh,
for playing it.
it wasn't
So
even
now
in
it's
the
time to
US.
go in and see how Sega took a series that nobody wanted to see rebooted and gave the people just what they wanted. You'll play as... Well, the game never gets around to naming him, and if they don't,
Really?
I will. Let's just go see what the most popular baby names are. Liam.
Liam.
No, that's not good. What about last year?
Really? Those
okay,
are the most
you're
popular
recording.
baby names?
What?
Is there a f***ing fixin' at the baby name place? How long has this been going on?
Yeah, what? 1 hour investigation in the name of babies. What? Why Liam specifically?
In 10 years, schools are going to be fucking flooded with Liams.
Yeah. It just makes me think, because I knew a single guy named Liam in my school
I
when
do
I was in
too.
high school. A single.
Not even in my school. He's in Canada.
I guess they just think it's a interesting, unique
God.
name or something.
rabbit hole goes too deep. We're naming him Fanta, and we're moving on.
What?
Fanta is one of a class of genome cyborgs. Genome cyborgs are government experiments that are capable of using genome DNA chips to take on the properties.
Also, this
of animals
game
to
basically
use in
killed its
paramilitary
English
operations.
release.
You're sent out to a small island where a thick
It killed a lot of things for Sega. Wow.
experiments that are capable of using genome DNA chips to take on
Talk about low-budget flights.
paramilitary
Yeah.
operations.
Oh my
You're
god.
sent out to a small island where a thick genome mist has
Sonic
enveloped the
reference.
surroundings and mutated the island's inhabitants
Indeed.
into horrible monsters. Or at least I think so. I don't want to know what the heck was on this island to make this guy. I just hope it can't breed. The helicopter carrying your embarrassingly sized pet carrier is attacked by bats and crashes, causing you to lose your memory. Then you learn from a lady named Anastasia that the DNA chips you use to transform have started to alter your mind, and if you don't constantly drink up on green goo, you're gonna go feral and lose control. She also tells us that when we crashed, we lost all 5 other DNA chips and have to go get them back and stop the genome mess.
Oh, wonderful.
While this was being explained to us, I also took the liberty of beating the entire original Altered Beast. So we find the werewolf chip and get the first positive of the game.
Oh my god.
Gory transformations.
Oh.
They're pretty much the game's only selling feature. Whenever
Oh,
you hit circle
goddamn.
to transform into a monster, a disgusting animation plays of your body ripping itself apart and reforming as the monster.
Yeah.
There's a decent amount for each monster, and I would be lying if I said they weren't
Yeah.
cool. The first time you saw them, we have to fight.
Oh,
off
are they
these
all
walking
different, or are they all the
corpses
same
using
damn
werewolf,
thing?
And we get to see how the combat works.
Same damn thing.
You jam on
God
the square
damn it.
button for a basic 3-hit combo and press triangle to do a special attack. By killing certain enemies, you get DNA to upgrade your combo so you can branch out to
Okay,
worthless launchers
normal-
and combo enders that don't work. The
Normal-
controls in
oh,
this game
wait,
are
what?
so horribly sluggish.
The combos don't work? That's the cornerstone of a fucking hack and slash. What?
Yeah, it sounds like the combo enders just don't really work like a combo ender should.
Oh my god.
I'm guessing just either things are dead before you use them, or they have too much wind up.
Oh god, this is a
Your
bad
inputs are
start.
constantly clashing with each other and making it so combos are constantly going to fail. Let's
Oh,
say you want to
no.
do square, square, triangle. If you press the square button twice rapidly, the attack animation is so long that the game won't count it as a second hit. It just stops the combo.
Oh,
so You
no.
have to mash X to keep the combo going, but when you finally get to triangle, the game is too busy reading the last input. And before
Dear
anybody
god, it's the same problem I had with some fighting games where I would put inputs too fast and it wouldn't read them. I had to slow down. Oh my god, this
Yeah,
is
that's
rude.
not what you want from a beat 'em up.
Yeah, it needs to be able to read inputs really fast. What the hell, Sega? This was bad.
says, I'm using a wire
And this is why
controller,
Platinum
my
is the only
microwave
good maker of
unplugged. I
beat 'em up
smashed
this
my
day and
TV
age.
remote with a hammer. There wasn't anything getting in the way. If you run out of goo while still in beast form, you don't transform back to Fanta. You stay in your beast form. It just shreds your health bar until you die. You can
Oh,
get goo
wonderful.
back by either killing enemies or switching back to Fanta and sticking the drinking straws you call fingers into the chest of a dying enemy to suck the goo out. At first, it seems like a pretty neat system where you have to pick and choose when to morph so you can conserve your goo and use your transformations only when you need them. The problem there is that Fanta throws punches with all the intensity of a plastic bag in high winds.
Oh,
you can't
no.
actually do any damage to enemies as Fanta, and the enemies
That's
don't show
terrible.
when they're vulnerable to have their goo drank. You just gotta hammer away on grunts forever and ever until you finally get
does
to
so
drink up,
little
and this
damage
is all
then.
while managing the dozen or so baddies coming to steal your car keys while you just deal with one. Anyway, on to the first area in a graveyard, and we get to see my next complaint. Don't worry, I'm not running out anytime soon.
I can
Remember
tell.
earlier when I said that a cutscene plays every time you transform? Every time you transform!
Oh my
You have to
god.
watch the same 5 or so cutscenes every single time you morph for the entire game. You can skip them by mashing one of the face buttons. I say one of because it's random every time you try.
Wait, what?
Sometimes the button to skip is the same button that transforms.
How
you, and
did they
pressing
do
it again
this?
At the wrong time morphs
I
you
don't
right
know.
back. Even with all that, when the game starts out, it's a little fun. It's a completely mindless button masher without a lock on.
Those can be
block
fun,
button, quick
but
dodge, or
you have to
anything
do
to
them
pass
well.
interesting. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say I'm guaranteed a quick dodge. But the animations are neat, and hitting things that aren't birds
Like,
is
this game had a
fun.
chance. It
God,
had
I'm so glad
potential.
birds aren't real. They even give give you a massive castle courtyard to mow through dozens of enemies in, so you
Yeah.
get used to just how truly pathetic you are. You get knocked around so much by common grunts, and while they don't do much damage when they're crowding you, you get stun-locked easily and eventually lose all your wolf goo and turn back into harmless old Fanta. The only way forward is to kill these gatekeeper enemies to keep the door closed, and to make sure the game isn't too much fun, these guys not only take triple the damage a normal enemy takes to kill, but they're also the first enemies in the game to block. This is fine, just use your guard breaker. Gotcha. They're also the same enemies that give you DNA to upgrade your attacks with, and I wanted to upgrade my Type N and S power-ups, which say that they can upgrade your attack power and special moves. But no matter how long the game went on, and no matter how many genomes I collected, it never let me upgrade these attributes.
So, that's a broken
That
feature.
can upgrade your attack power. The game certainly didn't feel the need to tell me. So we get inside the next area, the
This is
castle,
terrible.
and I'm immediately about to die. There is no easy way to regain health in this game. There's a chance an enemy may drop red goo instead of green goo that can restore a drop of health, but other than that, the only way to refill your health is to go all the way back to a save point where not only can you save your progress, but regain health. Getting back to the castle with full goos of both red and green, and I get to tear through the enemies that gave me trouble like they're nothing. At the bottom of the castle is the first boss fight against a giant mutant rat. He stays submerged in water most of the time and only pops out to try to attack you. The field is littered with mutant rats, and in most games, that's a sign that they weren't confident in the boss and had to pad out the arena with grunts to make up for it. Now, don't worry, that's still true, but it does have a bit more of a purpose in this game.
And
Since
that
the
is?
enemies drop goo so you can stay in your beast form.
Yeah, that makes
You
sense.
don't actually have to worry about attacking the enemies too often, since the boss is way more likely to kill his own goons than you are. The rat boss fight is more frustrating than anything, since he spends 2 whole health bars poking and running, leaving you with really small windows to get your hits in. The final phase has him permanently surfacing, but in this enraged red state that makes him immune to damage, except when he calms down and becomes vulnerable again.
Oh,
the
wonderful.
amount of time you spend in this boss fight not fighting the boss is staggering, because most of the time you can't do anything. Sit on your hands and wait for the rat to die of natural causes. Then you get to stick your hand in its tummy and pull out a new DNA chip. Fanta, with the intuition of a toddler finding a piece of jewelry, eats the chip. We learn that I'm the general's special little boy, and I'm the only one he can trust to go vacuum up all the genome mist. On top of that, we get a brand new merman form. They can swim underwater, fire bubbles with square, and launch a decoy to draw enemy fire with the triangle button. This form may be the worst one, since not only does it exclusively work in the water, but the swimming controls are so clunky and hard to manage. Moving in the direction that you want to, especially moving
Well, especially when you get a new form in these type of games, you're usually so excited because you want to see something cool. That's why you got to put your best foot forward on the second part.
They put a water stage forward.
I know. It's bad.
is so tedious, since the only way to go up is by holding X.
It's okay. Ultra Beast is dead. It's never coming back.
I wish it wasn't. I wish it would have been better.
To be honest, this game isn't really convincing me to become a genome cyborg. So we swim out of the castle all the way back to the helicopter crash, and the merman lets us advance to a dam. The underwater fighting controls.
Oh, dear God.
You can only fire one bubble at a time without upgrades, and with the terrible mobility options, you don't get the chance to avoid
You
damage
can't even
or
melee.
push out. When you get surrounded by enemies, you just have to take it until you can find an opening to run past them, except you can't always do that because you need to barrel down the gatekeeper for the area so you can kill them to get further. But you can't lock onto him, so you just have to hope the bubble chooses to hit him. I get stuck at the dam for a full 20 minutes before finally getting to go back on dry land. This leads into a boss fight with a giant croc who is piss easy, especially since the targeting works fairly well on bosses. His attacks
because there's only one thing to hit.
Defenses crumble at the first contact with a bubble. He has a second phase, but the most it does is add a new attack, which is the only attack he has, but it's electrified. For some reason, the water boss was holding an upgrade for the werewolf that allows him to jump higher by holding the jump button. Look at this.
Weird.
You don't think swimming?
Were you going swimming?
With this, you can go back through the stage and collect more DNA in areas you couldn't before. I didn't do that because the map doesn't exactly give you any actual information to go off to find these areas.
Wonderful.
The environment is so samey that remembering any landmarks to orient yourself is pointless, and I just don't wanna. More boring swimming than to get up to the next boss fight, a weird, hairless Yeti chimp. No, go ahead. Guess what sound he makes?
What is this thing?
Spending the first stage of his fight swimming, he's
Weird Halo
actually the
Yeti
ice
chip.
boss with a barrier
Why
of
is he
ice
underwater?
that will kill you if you get too close. Thankfully, the bubbles make stupid quick work of him as he's forced to run away. Listen, guys, I get it. You're trying to make it seem like you didn't just want to make a game about the werewolf, but why would you design a big chimp boss and then say, ah yes, swimming?
Yeah,
You know
that's
that
what
chimps
my
can't
thought.
swim? Yeah, their bodies are too dense with muscle to
Yeah,
fight.
they can't
Just
swim.
thought that was a
Apes
bunch of
can't
information
swim.
for you to know. After you drive him out of the water, he leaps up and clings to the ceiling, only dropping down to
Yeah,
hit you
they're
when you're directly
way too
below
much,
him. The game
basically.
wants you to use the werewolf's new super jump to hit him, but the hitbox is beyond persnickety.
Oh.
Sometimes you shred his health like copy paper, and other times you miss him entirely. These two scenarios look the exact same. His final phase has you as the wolf trying to lacerate his acerate until he drops dead. I'm only barely able to scrape by with a win because he couldn't be bothered to look at me. Sucking him dry not only gives us more background about how Fonta talked to a guy once, but that he owns a thermal jacket without sleeves. What I want to know is how they designed pants that come back after transforming, but not a shirt. I mean, I know why no one bought this game to see Fonta's flaccid ding-dongs and fight. Okay, some of us did. You also get access to the Wendigo power.
Oh.
Now, I know that
Yeah,
Wendigo is one of those
that's not a
monsters
Wendigo.
that can be anything from a big hairy deer skull creature to a white guy, but this is a Yeti. It's
Yeah, that's a Yeti.
Sasquatch,
That's not a Wendigo.
100% bona fide Yeti. What makes him special is that he can lift rocks and other environmental elements to throw at enemies. But what really sets him apart is that he's so slow. Not only is his movement sluggish, but his actual
And he gets
combo
knocked
is
over so easily.
unbearable.
Why not make him the
First hit
tank?
takes forever to come out, and the final hit takes so long that enemies can actually walk away from you mid-combo. Sir, I'm begging you, please take this combo. It's all that I have.
It's all
Of
that
course,
I
the best
have.
part is that you actually can't combo since the first hit launches your opponent to the other side of the map.
Oh,
It's
wonderful.
another form that makes me savor how bland and paint-by-numbers the werewolf is. Because for how lame and unfun he is, he's still leagues ahead of whatever this is. So we run all the way back through the stage we just went through to the starting area, where you can find a boulder the Yeti can throw to get to the next area. The game worryingly adds a counter for how many gatekeepers you need to kill, which means there's gonna be a really tough amount by the end. I can just feel it. Even the Yeti can't break the enemy's guards. My arms are the size of construction equipment, and them holding their axes up is just too much for me to get past. They introduce these
am
enemies that
constantly
are on
surprised
fire,
by
which
this.
need the Yeti's ice breath to put them out, but since it recharges so slowly and requires you to be in Yeti form to charge it at all, you just have to sit there and wait, use up all your goo, and then cool them down. It's just time wasting, twiddling your thumbs, waiting for the enemies to let you hit them when they don't have their unbreakable guard up. Going deeper into the stage, now you have to kill even more gatekeepers to pass, another 7 in fact. This sends you scrambling all around the map, fighting even more grunts that waste all your goo and health.
Dear God, why do they make it like this? It could have been so fun. It could have been fun.
Suffer.
It could have been fun.
Because Sega isn't Capcom. Capcom knew how to make a beat 'em up at that point.
Yeah, they did. I
Nick wanted to be the next god, and they net us so hard.
This could have been, but they didn't put enough effort in, and instead just like some of these designs look cool. They could have done cool things with them. They could have had a, this seems like, I don't know, the best way to play it is the only game I can think of is Prototype or something like that. But no, we have this. I don't even know what to call this. It's not good.
I don't know either.
Because it's not a good hack and slash.
The humans trapped
It's
in
not
the
a good beat 'em
genome
up.
turn into big puking purple gorillas, and
What?
the chickens trapped in it just turn into bigger chickens. So I kill all the gatekeepers, and instead of there being a save point
very weird.
afterwards, or any way to
Like
recover
T-virus.
health or goo, there's a massive enemy wave that traps you.
Wow.
I behind this car for so long, trying to get them to kill each other, but it just never worked. As soon as I left the safety of the car, they hit me once and killed me, forcing me to restart. And every time you do end up dying, the game kicks you all the way back to the start
menu.
And because there's no checkpoint, I had to redo the entire 15-minute section of killing off gatekeepers to finally pass. This game has an obsession with time wasting. If it's not the transformation animations or the backtracking or something anything else, it's the absolutely broken save system. It's fine to just
damn.
have save points and
Yes,
no
it is.
checkpoints. See the most influential franchise of the past 10 years, but
Yeah.
they gotta be a bit more generous than this. My opinion
Yes, they do.
of the game was irreparably soured by this. Having to do this long.
Having to go all the way back is such a pain in the ass. I hate it in games.
Yep.
But unfortunately, we'll have to stop here. We'll come back in later, guys. But I will have a friend edit so that you can see both at the same time. And I'll see you
Editing
later.
powers. Activate!
Rise from your grave.
Alright, we're back with this. Don't worry, we're immediately back. You saw nothing, and Matt just put the two videos together anyway, so
Boring section all over again.
Oh,
making
there's
a
just
lot less
giant
tolerant
evil
of the
lobsters
game's
now?
flaws. And this is far
Yep.
from the only time this happens. So you swim through the sewers to another part of town where you have to get into a mall, but the puking enemies are blocking the door and keeping you
Alright.
from getting in. The solution is to go find the next boss. This guy? He is
It
based
just
on
looks
the
like a
concept
great
Greek
unclean
monster,
one.
Big ugly baby. You have
Yeah.
to use the Yeti to launch
Yeah,
cars
he's
at
just
him
a
while
Nurgle
dodging the ones
demon.
he throws back. But this boss is much faster than you, meaning he's got
Oh,
a great
wonderful.
chance of hitting you before you ever get a chance. Or
Yep.
worse, while carrying a car, meaning you lose the chance to hit him and take damage, which you can't afford. Enemies
Wonderful.
endlessly crawl out from under his fat folds, so you don't have to worry about running out of goo, but this fight is just so dull. Beating him gives you the Yeti upgrade to make your own ice balls to throw whenever you want. That's how you're meant to hit the vomit guys at the mall, but the animation for
Really?
making the ball is so long, and you move even slower while
Why
holding
is
it.
everything
But you can't
slow
hit
with
them.
the
You
Yeti?
just
At least
can't
give
hit
him-
them. Aiming for faraway enemies with the ice ball is so cumbersome and sloppy. Half the time you don't even throw it near them.
Oh, and the Yeti has a
Game,
man
I'd
meter.
like to at least pretend
Of
we're on
course
the
he
same
does.
side. The mall level is the worst.
Even
It's
worse
3
than the
levels,
others?
requiring you to run around, find the gatekeeper, and move up. That's it. But what makes it bad is that the entire level is shrouded in darkness, so you can't actually see where you're going or where you've
Oh,
been.
no.
Oh, why
Wonderful.
Not just check the map? That should help. Please be serious. And
Oh,
because of how you can't regain
it's a
health,
very
you're constantly having to leave the building
not
to go
explaining
refill your
that.
health so you don't die, putting you through dozens and dozens of loading screens, wasting even more time. Oh, and those enemies you kill, every single time you go
Respawn.
back to the last point you were just at, they respawn every time you leave the building. The next tier of the mall is the exact same thing, just running around, killing even more goons and gatekeepers, worried every second that you're about to be
God
killed before you
damn.
can save again,
He hates
and you
every
have to
second
do
of
it
this,
all
huh?
over again. Going up to the top
Yep,
floor of the mall,
it's
and
the
we get to
worst
a
game
basketball
he's
court.
ever
Hey,
played.
wanna go shoot some hoops? Cool,
I'm-
I'll meet you up on
that's
the
saying
fourth floor of
something.
a mall. And why does it have a griffin in it? This
Why?
boss is kind of pathetic.
I'm guessing because griffins are one of those chimera-style monsters made during, well, ancient Greece that it just kind of fit this sort of thing.
Or the one with flying boss.
Possibly. They could have used a manticore, honestly. Anyway.
Hugs.
All it does is slowly swoop down to try to hit you, fire out feathers you can dodge by just standing there, and can be taken down with little to no interruptions. Oh no, don't get it twisted, this is my favorite boss in the game. After taking its health down, you chase him up to the roof and do the same thing, but the arena that meant that you weren't wasting
wonderful.
time chasing him around is now twice as big, meaning now you're wasting time chasing him around.
Ah,
He
wonderful.
never lands for you to hit him, which means the only way to attack him is to jump into him while he's flying, but most of the time he's firing feathers, which means jumping at him just gets you killed.
Yeah.
I got killed.
You have to do the entire section
Yeah.
before the boss fight and the boss fight over again.
I had to
Wonderful.
look
You
at
can
the
tell
time
that he
to figure
recorded
out
that
when
with
to
his
use
fucking
the
hand
Yeti's
in his-
ice ball to
well,
him.
head
It
in
should
his
have been
hand.
obvious, and in hindsight,
Yeah.
it was obvious, but I was so averse to using the Yeti unless I absolutely
Because
had
he's
to, I
the
didn't even
slowest
think
thing.
about it.
His-
Whatever I
this
take
game
is
became
stolen,
not
and the
fun
game
for
lets
him.
You suck out his goo and get a new chip. This one reveals that one time a rat had tubes put into it. Will
Okay.
science never be satisfied? You also get to be a bird. The Garuda
Oh.
is the next form and
Garuda?
is the first one since the wolf that can jump. You can
Garuda.
flap your wings to fly around as we get sent to the next area, which is on top of the genome mist. This is essentially your fast travel. If you lose your sense of right and wrong and feel like revisiting old levels, this is the fastest way to do it.
I
Except
see.
the Garuda still uses up your goo meter, which means that when you do
Oh,
get where you want to go, you won't have any goo left and have to waste time as Fanta to get more.
Yeah.
We get to the next area and get a cutscene of a mysterious man with more pockets and belts than the PS2 can handle. He looks over the griffin and says that Fanta's getting stronger and that he's gonna get him. Oh my god! Not
What is he doing?
Brad!
What?
You have to face off with
You
a
have to
spider
look him
boss.
up.
Here's where you learn that the Garuda controls suck. Not
Wonderful.
his movement so much, but his attack is just so bad. Pressing the attack
The
button lets you
wind.
shoot out a bunch of feathers to home
Ah.
in on a target. Now let's put aside the fact that the homing barely works and the range is shockingly low, and focus on how pressing the attack button locks you in place for a long, long time.
Oh,
This
wonderful.
being
You
the
can't
first
move while
time that you're
shooting.
actually using the Garuda in combat, you have no way of knowing that, and it leads to you becoming a sitting duck way too easily as you get hit by the boss's massive attacks. It's painfully unfun, but the lull in action does give me an opportunity to take up that knitting hobby I've always wanted to do. This game came out the same year as Devil May Cry
Really?
3. So after we beat the boss, we
This
get the
game
Garuda
came out-
power that
Yep.
allows him
Oh.
to break through walls of
It has no excuse now. It has no excuse anymore.
Hey, like, don't get me wrong, Devil May Cry 1, kind of mid. Devil May Cry 2, bad.
But
Devil May Cry 3 is, well, was the best of the series up until 5. And I say that as someone who really liked 4.
yeah.
Arm
it's-
goes snap.
Alright.
of web by charging towards them. Holy shit, there are walls of web in this game! You use it on a wall next to the canyon to access a new hub area, and that's the only time you ever use it in the entire game. Take my one joy in life, why don't you? So once we
Yeah.
touch down, the lady from earlier, Anastasia, dumps just about every bit of information she can onto you. She explains what a genome cyborg is, tells us Brad released the genome mist, Fanta grapples with his identity for all of one shot. He
Alright.
looks like he just got this body and is still trying to figure out how the base works.
Does he
sets out to do
speak
more
at all?
altering and beasting, which leads him to a mine.
Oh,
This is
no.
the first time in the entire game you have to try to find the gatekeeper enemies, who, if you didn't know to throw these 2 rocks, will never show up and instead just send wave of enemy to try to kill you. This is also the last time in the game that ever happens. We fly across a conveyor belt and swim down to a flooded mine shaft with Merman. Hey, remember he's in this game? And we get to fight a new boss.
Oh,
Big
yeah,
Catfish.
Merman
And
again.
this was the
Oh.
boss fight where I
What the
finally
hell?
realized I hate this game. I don't dislike it. I don't even think I could see what it was trying to accomplish and appreciate it for what it was. I hate it. This boss siphoned 2 hours of my life away from me, and all I can do to even the score is talk about how much I hate it. This boss is just a reskin of the crocodile boss from earlier, except it's always electrified. So you already have the horrible movement controls of the merman, but you add on top of that just how much faster the catfish is and how being too close to him automatically does damage, and it gets worse. Then you see that he's constantly firing homing blasts that come at you from off screen, and it gets worse.
Oh,
Then in the
wonderful,
second phase,
even
he gets
more
an attack
homing.
That is
Oh,
to avoid,
no.
where he fires out pillars of lightning, and it gets worse.
This is horrible.
Then you realize that these scum at Sega make you go back to the title screen every
No.
single time you die, and it gets even worse. This
Oh,
is the
God.
worst part of any game I've ever played. Hey, come on, be fair. It can always get worse. Never has it felt more like I'm going up against flat-out unwinnable odds than this. And not in a climactic or intentionally hopeless way. This is the mid-boss of level 9 of 15. I was miserable while playing this, just throwing myself at the boss over and over and over, knowing that nothing I did mattered because no matter what I tried, it never worked. It's not just that it's bad, it's that it's unfun. Every other game I've played, I've had fun with. Alter Beast is the first one where I flat out didn't have fun.
Ah,
It doesn't
damn,
matter
that-
it was at
that
the game's
actually
expense,
sucks.
I still had fun.
Yep.
Here, nothing like that happens. I
Oh,
wanted to
damn.
quit
Yeah,
so
I can
bad. I
understand
don't
that.
care how much footage I would have lost. I don't care how much time I would have wasted. No amount of effort was worth putting myself through this anymore. But then,
What?
like a light from heaven, I remembered why I was doing this. in
And
the
that
first
is-
place. Jason Dobbins.
What?
That sweet cherub only ever commented on 2 videos saying I should play Ace in Action and Altered Beast on PS2. This
Okay.
comment is literally the only reason I ended up playing this game.
What?
My instinct at first was to
Okay, that's, you know you don't have to do that much for the fans, right? It's,
If one of your commenters told you to play this, I imagine you would.
maybe. It depends. I have a lot of time. I don't have as much
Let's
time.
find
as
out.
this.
Post in the comments. Let's test this.
Oh my god, we're not doing that. Oh my god. Anyway. Back to it until I have to slap Med again.
Blame poor Jason, I realized that was wrong, and instead I had to pull through. Just imagine how happy Jason will be when he sees this, and I cannot stress enough how much this is never gonna happen again. After 2 hours of
How much this is never gonna happen again.
I finally did it. I killed the catfish and got the ability to dash through walls as the merman.
Okay.
Mom, you're not gonna believe it!
Dash through walls.
No, even
Somehow.
better. It's the merman upgrade! Just 5 minutes later in the
And a
game,
bat boss.
immediately throws you into a
Ew.
new contender for the worst part of any game I've ever played. The bat boss starts the fight on the roof, meaning the only way to get up and hit him
Is
with
the Garuda.
But Garuda's movement options are so piss poor and his attacks so unwieldy that you barely get a chance to hit the boss without taking damage yourself.
Wonderful.
It is impossible to hit the boss without standing helplessly in his line of fire. On top of that, he spends most of his time in the enraged red form, which takes reduced damage or no damage. The result
Wonderful.
is a very quick and painful death.
Yeah, he
Aw,
died.
Isn't that sweet? They left the save point right outside the boss arena. Hey, dude, I know you're still upset about the whole cutting off your leg
God
thing,
damn.
but I did get you this life's good mug. That's gonna help, right?
Life's
the
good
frustrating
mug.
part isn't the fact that you don't do a lot of damage, it's how inconsistent it is. There will be parts where you whittle down a big chunk of his health bar, but other times you flat out can't hurt him. Once you take down a health bar, he'll drop down to the ground for a second, and by the time you float down with Garuda, he's already back on the ceiling. I just made the trip for the scenery. Then it's just the first phase again, but the enraged state lasts much longer, and his attacks spread even farther. You're gonna be spending massive swabs of this fight running around on the ground, waiting for the boss to kill his own henchmen so you can regain health and goo before going to try to hit him again.
I hate
it's
that.
also here that you realize the Garuda has a second attack, but the game just doesn't bother to tell you about it. If you move around while tapping the attack button, you fire out a single feather. While yes, it's near worthless, using the hit and run style on the boss
Is the
typically
best
yields
way
much
to
better
kill it,
result
I'm
than
guessing.
running into him like a moron. You want to know the best part though? The strategy that finally brought me victory?
What?
I just stood in front of him and shoved feathers down his throat till he died.
Oh.
He kicks off with him falling back down to the ground, as now you need to use the werewolf to hit him. You could try
Wonderful.
to use the Yeti to attack him, but you could also just turn the console off, and that's gonna be way better for me in the long run. This phase isn't hard.
You could also
but the
turn
fact
the
that so
console
much
off,
time
but
and
you know.
vulnerable that you rarely get a chance to hit him, and when you do, you better make sure you're attacking his head, otherwise you're gonna do no damage. One more phase! One more phase! You gobble up the bat's chip and see a flashback to your first encounter with Brad. Brad
Alright.
gets pissy when he's told that he can't eat chips like Fanta does and has a purr-off with us in the middle of buttfuck nowhere.
Oh, he's angry
Guess
'cause he
who
can't-
gets a big dumb chest scar?
He's
So
angry
now that I
because
have
he can't-
sufficient
oh.
reason to kick Brad
New
in the
form.
pants, I get my latest transformation, Minotaur.
Minotaur
It is
bowl
room temperature
thing.
Yeti. So we run back to
Warm
the hub area
temperature
and
ready.
find Anastasia.
I just love that it's quite literally gets angry because he can't use other chips like him.
What do you mean, my transformation? Well, I can't have a bunch of shitty transformations aside from my furry transformation.
What do you mean?
I'm Brad. I'm great.
For some reason, he's just angry he can't use more, even though the ability to just do it once is incredibly powerful.
Anastasia has
In a
gone
way.
missing and left a folder telling us about the last genome chip, the dragon.
The
Ooh,
dragon?
I hope it's worse than werewolf. On to the
Oh,
nuclear
dear
power
God.
plant, and here's where things start to fall apart. We run through the same Resident Evil lookalike stage we've been running through for every other
know
level,
this
with
music.
tons of blocking enemies
Oh.
without a way to kill them. Just gotta uselessly wail on them till they give up.
So,
My doctor did say that a growing boy like me needs more
Xena
extras
stage
in his
from
diet.
Heroes.
Look
Damn.
at this. I know the game wants me to use the Minotaur's fire breath on the gas tank, but why can't I just use the horns? Those have fire on them too.
Yeah,
The
that
game
is
just
weird.
wants the option that wastes the most time. You get swarmed by flying enemies, and while using Garuda would significantly improve my chances, I'd really rather
it doesn't
not.
care.
Werewolf is still the only transformation worth using if you're not required to use another. The other ones are just way too situational.
Yeah, that
You enter
sucks.
a nuclear power plant and immediately have to fight a giant panther monster who breathes
Okay.
black smog all over the place. Despite the dozens of letters I've written to Sega on the matter, the game still insists on trying to make using the Yeti a thing. You throw ice blocks up at him to try to lure him into the center
Yeah,
of the stage.
the
where you
Yeti's
can
too slow for literally
throw
anything.
More ice blocks.
If you're gonna make him a tank, make him an actual tank. You know, being able to take hits.
Super armor.
Yeah. At least give him some of it if you're gonna make him that slow.
At him. You have to spend so much time trying to line up your shot to try to hit the boss, but just when you think you're gonna hit him, the game wonders just how funny it would be if you missed. It gets funnier every time. In the second phase, you have to wait for him to tucker himself out, so you have to go huff more gas to keep moving. That's when you get to rail on him. In my blind hatred of all things non-werewolf, I ignore the fact that the Minotaur can easily use his iron block to knock the boss down.
Really?
But that would require me using the Minotaur. Ugh. Beating the boss gives you the Minotaur.
At least the animations are good.
The jump button for a college semester and then do a charge forward. One that can break walls is impossible to control.
I'm thinking positives.
It can be interrupted by anything in a 1 mile radius thinking too hard. Hey,
oh, wonderful.
wait, I don't like this. You venture deeper into the power plant to tangle with upsettingly buff goat men, fuse boxes that can only be destroyed by ice blocks, and underwater sections, which are positioned in such a way where you barely have any health or goo by the time you get to them, and if you die there, you have to go back to the last checkpoint. Want to take a guess where the last checkpoint is? That's right, it's outside the power plant. Before the Panther boss fight. The whole section you have to do again now? 40 minutes. There's a 40-minute stretch where you don't get a checkpoint. There's challenging, and then there's just f***ing bullying. The only difficulty comes from the controls not working and getting knocked around like a tin can by enemies I should be able to cleave through. But since you can't break their guard, you're worthless against them. And did I mention I just lost 40 minutes of progress? I'm on my way back to the water section before getting to the big battle with Brad. Brad transforms into his own altered beast form.
Tiger.
The tiger won't tolerate comments like that. I won't either. To me, the fact that you have the mobility of Moss, Brad can leap all around the room and has a quick dodge that makes him totally invincible every time
Wonderful.
he uses it. You know what, game? You're right. I don't think I was working hard enough to earn that. Brad deserves it. After that, you have to wait for Brad to hop on the top of this pillar and ram into it with Minotaur. But since he's throwing cutter attacks, you can't stay out in the open, so you have to start the charge behind cover, somehow maneuver yourself around to hit him, all without hitting anything, which is incredibly hard with how awful the Minotaur can be.
Yeah, you have to make it much
down,
faster.
You just gotta give him a few more wet willies till he tells us that he didn't release the Genome Mist, Anastasia did.
Oh, great.
God, I can't believe we couldn't trust the lady we had no reason to trust. We get the dragon chip and the final flashback showing us that we're the third genome cyborg, with Brad being the first one and Anastasia as the second. Our ability to use multiple chips and turn into multiple different beasts is what makes us special, and does beg the question, if we're the only one that can use the chips in the first place,
why did they take him?
Brad bother stealing them? Spite. Just spite. The dragon is a final transformation, and I kinda like it. Its throw is erosion.
It's better than all the others.
There, but its lightning attack is pretty strong, and he can fly better than Garuda. All right, game, you're officially 2 for 6.
2 for 6.
It's a failing grade. Of course, it can't be that easy, since for some stupid reason, the lightning orbs get caught on walls and will dissipate, and when this game is more hallway than man, you can tell how much fun that's gonna be. We get out and head off for the final area of the game, the research facility. Here we gotta deal with waves upon waves of very large horsemen before getting to a section testing our skills with all 6 transformations. I made the stupid mistake of doing the merman section first, and with barely enough goo, I get soft in the room and am forced to restart at the beginning of the level. I don't want to check how much time I just wasted. Bish, bash, bosh. I get everything I need to ride the elevator down to fight with... I don't want to touch that. It looks slimy.
Ew.
So this weird chicken monster is meant to showcase how strong the dragon form is, but when
was this from the Jimmy Neutron movie?
Lets it fly halfway across the stage to snipe you out of the sky, you don't really get power fantasy.
Maybe.
It's the most nothing boss in the whole game. The interest begins and ends
how
it
gives
birth to grunts so it can eat them to regain health. Don't you dare think that sounds interesting. We ride another elevator down to a secret lab, which is almost exclusively a boss fight with this rhino. My house is burned down, and I would still say this boss fight is one of the worst things to ever happen to me. This fight is so much worse than the bat or the catfish. First off, the best forms to fight this thing in are the Yeti and Minotaur. Oh boy!
Oh no!
He's got a really basic move pool, a few combo hits, a fireball and fire dash, icicles, and a body splash. But of course, just wailing on him wouldn't fit a thinking man's game like Altered.
Oh great, fighting a giant rhino man in...
No matter what. He just hunkers down and refuses to take any damage.
Why?
Leave him alone. Why, in the name of God, would you have a boss fight like this? Where
where he can just do that wherever he wants.
It's a beat 'em up. I can't do anything else.
I can't beat him up.
So fast, too. His charge not only can bowl right through you, but also sends you to the other side of the arena, while he's still moving to the other side. I move like a bill through Congress. Why is everybody so much faster than me? The only way to deal any real damage is
I move like a bill through Congress.
to send him flying. Of course, there's no way to trigger the attack easily, and it has the exact same startup animation as the icicle attack, and the timing to pull it off is extremely narrow, but the game doesn't have to let me win. Go full TMNT on DOS. Make it unwinnable.
Make it unwinnable?
The second form where he's always
Yeah, there was a jump that you couldn't get past in that
won't do
game.
the body splash
Wow.
attack, and gets a new charge move that goes across the entire screen. Nothing about this boss fight works. It's not a test of skill, it's a test of patience for how long you can put up with the game's bullshit.
Yeah, sounds about
You
right.
get to use what the game has taught you, like using the Minotaur's iron guard to stop the dash, and that works. But
Yeah.
the dash lasts longer than the guard does, so it's worthless no matter what. When
Oh.
you finally get to beat him, you don't feel accomplished. You
And now
don't
he's
feel
shooting
smarter,
fireballs.
You don't feel relieved. You just feel angry that the game is throwing all of this at
Yep.
you one after another without a thought for how unfair it is. There's no mid-boss checkpoint. There's no hints in how to beat him. Nothing about it is actually fun to play, and you know it's just gonna get worse from here.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'll come clean. The only reason I'm doing this to myself is because I love that title screen. You get an upgrade for the dragon that changes the super move from a big electro web to a big electro cannon.
Nice.
I kill a rhino for that.
I don't know.
Upstairs and use the cannon to get to the final area where Anastasia is waiting to dump a whole game's worth of exposition on us.
Oh, good.
See, she and Brad were both jealous that the doctor spent more time with me instead
yeah.
of them because we could use multiple chips. So she released the genome mist because the doctor didn't like her anymore. That's really dumb, and Brad's
Yeah, it
telling the
is.
chips was completely unrelated to the plan because she didn't account for that at all, but
Really?
honestly more preoccupied with how her rights
Oh,
is
shoot.
working. Oh, well, now that's just silly. So Anastasia plans on absorbing our power so the doctor will talk to her again, and I just want to talk about how cool it is that me and Brad get to turn into cool-looking animals,
What
and
does
she
she
turns
get?
into a big flesh bubble that throws human heads.
Yeah, what the hell?
Fair. It takes one shot of the dragon cannon.
I
to
guess
take
they
away
didn't
your
want to
first
make a
health
furry
bar
girl or
as we immediately
something.
lose and
They
start
got
to get
tired of the
absorbed.
furries.
Brad then comes in for the most last-second face turn possible. He gets
Yeah.
thrown into a wall and defies all the odds by
Dying.
So in the next stage, Anastasia turns into a big scorpion Medusa with
Oh,
ice powers.
that's
I
more
thought
normal.
I'd need to keep using the dragon to kill her, but what you actually need to do is use the Yeti, since the Yeti is immune to ice attacks, and the boss only has ice attacks,
Oh,
so she can't hurt you.
Okay.
The entire boss fight just breaks because the boss can't hurt you while you're like this. And the
Oh.
phase afterwards, literally the exact same thing,
But with the
Minotaur.
Minotaur. Yeah.
This is the most tedious final boss ever
Oh, wow.
made. I don't
Yeah,
like the
what the
boss has full
hell?
transformations. This is the most uninteresting slog I've ever.
Second thing Jack
Crap,
liked
I
to
forgot
like.
I installed that alarm. Yeah, the boss has a pretty cool theme. Like, unironically, the theme is a pretty cool mix of old B-movie horror notes and sci-fi synth. It works.
Oh,
surprisingly
yeah,
well.
she does kinda look
So
like a
for the fourth
chimera.
stage, you have to use the Garuda, and before you ask, I checked, Dragon doesn't work. I know, I'll email them about it later. For the next phase, you have to use the werewolf and jump into the boss's tummy when it's standing.
How many
right beside you.
phases?
Game, if you wanted it to be over this badly, you could have just rolled credits back at the spider boss. After that is
Yeah.
another dragon section, and it's over.
Why?
Monta stacks up Brad and Anastasia's dead body and burns the whole place to the ground.
All right.
My new list of personal enemies plays at the Altered Beast is finished. Now, there is
My
some
new list of
post-game
personal
content where you can
enemies.
do enemy waves and boss time attacks for additional forms like Brad's Tiger, an alien that one-shots everything in the game, and the
Yeah.
bear from the original Altered Beast. I
Oh.
won't lie, this run cycle was almost enough to make me go back.
Yeah.
What an awful game. Seriously, I don't mean hyperbole when I say this is the worst one I've ever played. I know
You'll have to
that there are
pay me to
technically
play
worse
this if you
games
want
that have been
this.
made. Trust me, I've played a lot of them, but there's a difference
You heard him.
between something like
He has a
this and
Patreon.
Duke Nukem Forever.
You'll have
or
to pay me quite a bit.
With those games, yeah, they stink. They could be dull, but they were never flat out unfun. I could get frustrated, want to quit, but at the very least there was something about it that kept me going, whether it was the art style, a fun control element, or even just seeing what bizarre set piece was coming next to keep me entertained. With a game as lifeless, unfun, and time-wasty as Altered Beast, nothing like that ever happens. It's dull, unimaginative, wastes your time, and is the worst game I've ever played.
That's saying a lot.
But at least Jason Dobbins is happy.
I believe Jason Dobbins is a pinned comment if you want to check.
Let me see. Does he? I'll check. Yes, he does have a pinned comment. Thank you. Yes, thank you. The legend himself, the big man. It's him. Wow.
He caused this.
What's wrong with the name Liam, huh? We both know the answer to that. Nothing. Well, then, he did cause this.
Yeah.
But if you guys want to force me to watch other things, you can make that become faster by heading over the Patreon and, I don't know, paying me some amount of money to watch certain things, and I'd gladly put it up over here. Well, yeah. You can suggest videos, but I'll admit I do have a schedule to do, but yeah. Thank you all so much. If you want to support us, you know, the Patreon. If you really want to support us, go over and follow over on Twitch. And if you just like us, you know, comment, like, subscribe, all that things. And we'll see you later. Sorry, I'm rushing this a bit. A friend needs some help with some stuff. There, guys. Matt, you want to say later?
No, I'm good. Just gonna.
Alright. Later, guys.